get started, I'll have you spell your first and last name for me and then tell me your title.
Okay, I'm Joe Greiner, Joegreiner. I'm the owner of Arizona Rafting by Wilderness Aware.
Great. All right. So, Joe, tell me a little bit about the conditions that we're seeing in the Salt River Canyon this year.
Well, the rain and snow that we've gotten this past winter built up the snowpack in the White Mountains, and that's now coming off. We're right in the heat of the season right now. We opened at the end of February and plan to stay open until the middle of May. Water peaked a little bit earlier and is starting to come down a little bit right now. It's running, we measure flows of rivers in cubic feet per second, and it's about 1,200 cubic feet per second right now, which is an ideal flow for rafting.
Great. So, what was it like last year?
Last year we had a peak probably 700 or 800 cubic feet per second during the rafting season. The snow came off early last year, and by the time it got warm enough for people to want to go rafting, it was considerably lower than the peak we got this year. It did peak up 2,000 FS in the last week or so on the salt.
Okay. So, what does a good water condition season mean for tourism in the area and for people who are interested in rafting?
It brings people out of the woodwork. People know that when the water's up, the waves are bigger, the water's faster, it's more exciting. Um, so there's only four outfitters on the Salt River, and we're all living 45 miles from the nearest town on the banks of the Salt River on the White Mountain Apache Reservation. And we'll take a combined total of maybe 300 or 400 people a day down the river. In a good year, 10 to 12,000 people will raft the Upper Salt River.
Awesome. So, how many people have you guys seen so far? How many people are you anticipating?
We've probably already taken close to 1,000 people, and it wouldn't surprise me if we got another 1,000 before the end of the season for our company. We're taking 20 to 100 people a day, just our company. And all the reports are great. We do a comment card at the end of each trip, and everybody is loving it. It's exciting, it's big, people are getting wet, and it's warm, which I know for folks in Arizona is a big deal.
Yes, definitely. So tell me a little bit about why you come down to the Salt River. I know you're in Colorado right now.
I'm in Colorado. We have a facility up in Colorado, which is where I am now. I just got back from Arizona, getting things set up and doing some guide interview trips on the Salt River. But because it's an unpredictable season, this year being an exceptional one, we don't always have a full season or even sometimes a season at all. The last 6 years have been pretty dry. And so we have all of our equipment up here that we run, 10,000 people a year in Colorado. We bundle up all that gear. We have trailers that we pack things into and do a big caravan of buses and vans down to the White Mountain Apache Reservation. And we also store some stuff in Arizona. We have a kitchen trailer with piped in propane refrigeration. So we have a nice hot fajita lunch that we serve at the midpoint of the trip. We've got changing rooms that we set up in a parking lot on the side of the river on the reservation. And this past year, we even got internet down there. We've got a satellite connection. So last minute reservations we can handle.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about why you guys choose to come down to Arizona. Obviously, Colorado probably has some bigger rapids, but why do you guys, tend to come down here for a season or two?
The Salt River is unique. You're rafting past saguaro cactus. Nowhere else in the world that I know of that you can do that. It's close to Phoenix and Tucson to where people can get there in a day and home. Um, and the rapids are very comparable to the most popular rafting river in the country, which is where we're based here in Colorado on the Arkansas River. So it's big, it's fun and exciting. There's not very many slow stretches. It's remote. You don't have development along the river. There's a dirt road on the day trip section that, if you look real hard, you can see it carved into the side of the mountain. But for the most part, you don't see anything along the way. So we love that remoteness, that wilderness feel. And then if you go on a multi-day trip, we do 2, 3, 4, 5 day trips all the way down to Roosevelt Reservoir. So it goes from the Highway 60 bridge between Globe and Show Low all the way down to Roosevelt. It's about 55 miles, and we can do that all or part of that with very little access in between. Beautiful sand beaches to camp on, hikes up side canyons to waterfalls. It's just a little oasis that is within striking distance of us. So it it's the pinnacle of guiding for our employees. They all want to go, and we have to limit how many employees we can take down there so that everybody has something to do. If you're a private boater and you want to do the Salt River, you have your own raft. The Forest Service does a lottery, and because it's so well known in the private rafting community, they'll get 20, 30, 40 applications for every day of the season, and they only allow 2. So it's very difficult to get a wilderness permit, a multi-day permit, to raft the Salt River on your own. Now, you could do it on your own as a day trip, but that uniqueness, that all those qualities, wilderness qualities, rafting, weather, you name it, just makes the Salt a mecca for boaters.
Great. So tell me a little bit about why you are interested in this and how you got started with the guides and all of that.
Well, I started guiding when I graduated from college in 1983. Guided for 3 years, bought the company at that point. We've grown it slowly over the years to what we are now. And super proud of our facility in Colorado. We're right on the river here as well. Beautiful facility you can see behind me here. I just love being outside. I worked in Boy Scouts. All my summers were spent outdoors, and the thought of being in an office didn't appeal to me. After I graduated from college, and so the owner of the company I was working for offered to sell it. Perfect opportunity. Got married that same year, and my wife and I took it over from there. And I got to be on the river every day in the summer for as many years as I wanted to, and now I kind of back off a little bit. I'll get on with family and friends, and I love to come down to the Salt. I always do 2 5-day interview raft trips for our new guides down in Arizona, which is part of the reason we come to Arizona, is that we're able to get people that want to work for us to come down and do a 5-day raft trip. And during that 5 days, they get to know us, we get to know them, and we get the best of the best that way. It's early enough in the year for summer employees to get something else if they don't get hired, so we get really good people applying. And after they get hired down in Arizona, they'll come up and work for us in Colorado for the summer, and then that's where we kind of select the people to get to work in Arizona. It's a privilege.
That sounds really neat. So, tell me a little bit more about this industry, the wilderness industry. What is the benefit of having great conditions for your company and for other companies like this?
On the Salt River?
Absolutely, yeah.
It's early season, so all the companies that are down there have other operations during the summertime. So we have all the employees, all the office infrastructure, all the vehicles, all the boats that are doing nothing between March and May. And so that's perfect. We get to use the infrastructure that otherwise would be sitting idle. So that's an important reason for us to come down, is that we're set and ready to go. The exclusivity down there, you don't see a lot of people, is appealing to us. It sounds like a lot of people, but when you spread out a couple hundred people a day on a 12-mile stretch of river or a 55-mile stretch of river on a wilderness trip, you just don't see that many people. We love that. That's what appeals to me.
Great. So now, to wrap it up, tell me something that our audience should know about the water conditions this year and about rafting.
Well, anybody can raft. Our minimum age on the Salt River is 8 years old. You don't have to have prior experience. We've got 2 ways of taking down the river: on a paddle boat, where you have a paddle and the guide calls commands. He'll say forward, or he or she will say forward or back paddle, left turn, right turn, and maneuvers the boat amazingly precisely. I mean, you can put the boat within inches of where you want it to be. It's not just a bumbling down the river, bouncing off of rocks experience. If you don't want to paddle, we also have oar boats, which is kind of like a rowboat on a lake where the guide has two big oars and they can control the boat by themselves. Not too many people want to do that, but older folks, little kids, handicapped folks, people that are nervous about the big waves can just hold on and be rowed down the river. The season runs from the beginning of March to early May in a good year like this. So March is the high water season, which is what we're in right now. You can call today and book for tomorrow. We can get you down the river. And that's when you get the big waves, the big hits, not very many rocks, kind of down the middle, just splashing and fun. As the water drops, it gets more what we call technical, where you're maneuvering through channels and missing rocks and weaving through the waves and catching the wave train and bouncing down through the wave train after maneuvering through a maze of obstacles. And a lot of people like that just because it's challenging. It's exciting to see a big rock coming at you, shifting around it at the last minute and dropping down through a chute. So it's a very different experience as the water drops. So late March and early to mid-April is intermediate with some big waves and a few rocks. As it gets towards the end of April and early May, it gets to that more challenging technical nature where you're maneuvering between rocks and down chutes with much smaller waves. So it's a very different experience. If you come at the beginning of the season, again at the end of the season, you'll have a completely different experience. All of them are fun.
Awesome. Great. So, just I know I said I would wrap it up, but I do have one more question. What is your favorite experience, water rafting experience, that you've had on the Salt River Canyon? Do you have a specific memory or story that you'd like to share?
Oh boy. All of my personal experiences have been, I focused on the wilderness stretch, the 2 to 5 day stretch. So many years ago, there was a rapid that was impassable. And it was in the news 15 years ago was people went down and blew up a rapid that was impassable with dynamite. They went to jail for it. But it made the river much easier to negotiate. So back in those old days, we would have to stop at the lip of this falls, and which was exciting in itself, getting stopped, because if you didn't stop, you went over the falls and probably didn't make it. Then we'd have to unload the boats on the shore, carry it up a steep bank, through some water, through a narrow slot of rock, and then down a big rock slide into the surging water below. And the whole time your heart's racing because there's people potentially coming in behind you. And then once you get loaded up again, you paddle out into below the waterfall and look back at this, death falls. And the last time that we ran it, when we thought it was unrunnable, we did that. We got stopped. We got one boat unloaded, all the stuff up on the shore, turned around, looked at the waterfall, and it was gone. It was like, wait a minute, what happened? And it's like, we could raft that today. So we had a bunch of trainees that were learning how to raft. So we've already unloaded one boat. Let's practice carrying the stuff around the falls. And then we got to be one of the first people ever to run Quartzsite Falls when it was a raftable rapid. And today it's still raftable. It's still very exciting because it's very narrow. There's a band of really, really hard rock called quartzite that narrows the river to 2 chutes about 8 feet wide each that you line up at the top of this chute and shoot straight down the falls. They're very raftable, very fun. It's a big splash. And that day when we discovered that the wilderness trip was now accessible to everyone was pretty exciting.
That's awesome. Great. Well, if there's anything else you'd like to add, please let me know. Otherwise, I think we're good to go.
Well, it's a short distance from Phoenix and Tucson. It's about a 2-hour drive, so we meet at about 9:30 in the morning, so you can have breakfast, meet us in the morning, have a raft trip, and be home by dinner. And it's not the tubing stretch. Anytime people hear the Salt River that live in Arizona, they think a drunken inner tube float through Mesa, and that's not what this is. This is up in the White Mountains, and this is the real deal. It's super exciting, super fun, and a totally different experience than a summertime tubing float.
Awesome. Great. Thanks so much, Joe. Really appreciate you taking out the time and letting us reschedule and set this up. And I'm hoping that the story will be out tonight, and I will send you a link to it once it's up on the internet.
Hey, look forward to it. Nice to meet you, and hope we get to see a lot of folks on the river this summer.
Yes, absolutely. I hope you guys do too. All right, have a good one. Thanks again.
Okay, goodbye.
Bye.